Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Namnatom, the Destined Planet, where the saga of Anvilquested has come to an end, but now a new saga, a saga of adventure, is about to begin. Now this I will title Epilogue Episode 0, because we will not actually be starting our adventure in this episode, but rather we are going to be taking a look at the world as it was at the retirement of Anvilquested and the world that our adventurer will begin adventuring in. And then, starting with episode 1, we will actually do our adventure. The reason for the delay is that I am having some amazingly awesome artwork made that introduces our adventurer, and Dwarf Comic is taking care of that. So I'm giving him some time because I've got a really cool idea in store for you all, and I want you to enjoy it. But also, let's just step back a moment and take a look at the world and what we will be doing and exploring in adventurer mode. First of all, however, there are a couple things I want to show you from Anvilquested that we missed in the initial Anvilquested series. The first is, for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, a list of the generated wealth of Anvilquested. So this screen, which I will show up here, will show you all of the dwarf bucks that Anvilquested was worth in furniture, in armor, how much we exported, how much we imported, and also at the end how much food and drink we had, and all the dwarves we had, and what their breakdown was in terms of occupation. So please feast your eyes upon that to get the final lowdown on all that Anvilquested achieved. Next, I just want to show you a really cool description that I saw on a statue. One thing I did after the series ended was I had a bunch of statues made prior, and I went ahead and placed them around the fortress, so when our adventurer gets there, he will be able to see them. But one of them was exceptional because it was a statue depicting our Marksdwarf, Good Bad Dwarf, slaying the dragon. The one dragon that came to Anvilquested. So I'm going to put that up on the screen right now as well for you to read and enjoy. Alright, so now that that is done, let's take a look at Namnatom, the Destined Planet. As you already know, there are two dwarven civilizations, of which Anvilquested was a member of the Ageless Manor, which is based down here in this southern mountain range. And then there's also the Figure of Princes, which is up here in the northeastern portion of the mountains. I believe they are called the Great Walls, the entire mountain range. But we are going to be a human adventurer. So we are going to look down here at the human societies, and actually I'm going to take another break to mention that you may have noticed that the title card artwork is different. Yes, it is. And I decided that, of course, the wonderful title card artwork that we had by Borker for the Anvilquested series represented well the interior of a dwarven fortress being assaulted by a forgotten beast. However, I thought something different was needed for this series. So, the new title card is a piece of artwork entitled Forest Village by a gentleman by the name of, and I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, but Torgeir Fjereide. And he is an artist who does amazingly good work, and he has many Dwarf Fortress related artwork pieces. So I'm going to post a link to his website below in the text, as well as a correct spelling of his name, which, as I mentioned, I have already butchered. Alright, and back to the humans. So we have 11 human societies, and they're all over the place. Let's take a look at them. There's the Tiled Nation. Now they are up here in the northeast, very close to the Figure of Princes. We have the Confederation of Voice, which is down here by the homelands of the Princely Manor. or the Ageless Manor, I apologize. Then we have the Confederation of Songs, who I hope are allied with the Confederation of Voice, because that would make a lot of sense. And they're on the other end of the mountain range here in the southwest. A lot of the human civilizations are down here in the southwest. Then there is the Confederation of Hail, which is a large spread organization which started here northwest of this lake, but then also expanded down to the deserts near where our dwarven civilization bases itself. Then there is the Flowery Empire. They are also down here in the far southwest, in this plain region, but they have also expanded quite far. There is the Turquoise Kingdom, and they're here in the southeastern portion of the plains, in the direct south of the map itself, again very close to the Ageless Manor. And then the Nation of Carnality, which sounds like an incredibly fun place to live, but is far away from where we are going to be. They are here on the northeastern section of this lake, and they have also had some offshoot branches. Then there is the Kingdom of Fainting, which I would presume is not a very strong kingdom, and they are to the southeast here. They are actually very close to the Goblin civilization that started off inflicting grievous wounds upon our Dwarven civilization, but eventually faded back into nothing, while the Human Kingdom, no doubt also fighting against them, survives. Then we have the Confederacies of Waviness. They are in the far southeast corner, as you can see here, on the southern shores of this. This is a lake, believe it or not. It's an evil lake, so it's probably a pretty scary place to live, one would think, and that's probably why they're sending out colonies here to the west, where hopefully things are a bit nicer. And then there is the Whirling Realm. They, again, are in this area around this giant lake to the southeast of it, and they have sent colonies out into the plains. So all of these human civilizations are quite close to one another, and as we've noticed, with the exception of the one up here, they are all south of the mountain range. However, if you were especially perceptive, you will have noted that there is one that we had not looked at, and that is the Coincidental Union of Scars. And this is the civilization that our adventurer is going to be from. It is the closest civilization to the dwarven halls of Anvilquested. It is right here on the northern tip of these plains and hills, and there's a little desert around here too, but it's also a very cold environment, and they're right here south of the frozen tundra. So let's take a look at the Coincidental Union of Scars, as they will be the civilization that we belong to. It was founded in the year 10 by the human Catet Age Admired, and it has been passed on to numerous kings or queens since then, until just recently, the same year that Anvilquested was founded, 150, the human Mizbo Wasp Scuffle took control. However, Mizbo only survived for 8 years, and in 158, and presumably still now, as our adventurer is off to join the world, the leader of the Coincidental Union of Scars is Renal Equal-Sounded, and Renal's goal is to become a legendary warrior. He is the lawgiver of the Coincidental Union of Scars, and Mizbo, the previous queen, was his mother. He's a worshipper of the human deity Thram Bushel Goats, and he's married to Huthra Yorpigs. And his current seat of power is in Gully Authors, which is at the far northern edge of the kingdom. Let's take a look at the kingdom actually in the map. So here we are. This is the entirety of the kingdom. It follows this river. We've got some hills here. We've got some badlands in addition to the hills. We have a forest to the southeast, and that is the border between the human kingdom and Anvilquested. And then further to the east, we have more badlands. To the north, we have the lake and the frozen tundra, and to the south, we have a peaceful, happy little swamp, and some elven civilizations in the forests over here. But the capital is here, in Gully Arthurs, and it is a town of 3,227 humans, as well as quite a large number of cats and ducks. Goodness. However, there's also Uki Paint Scrapes, who is the lady of Goli authors. Alright, so we're back at the Coincidental Union of Scars. And they worship a number of human deities. And one hagfish deity, who is Z, the Confident Rains, who is a god of sun, day, hunting, fishing, and fish, which makes a lot of sense, being as it's a hagfish deity. But all the rest are humans. Let's see, we have longevity, that's cool. We have wisdom and scholarship, that would probably be my favorite, Mesm, the teacher of oracles. We have Iqua, of crafts and labor. Ol Nighthale, of strength. Oben Bronzeflyers, the god of rainbows and light. And then Istro, the god of wealth, chaos, and war. And Osmos, the god of darkness. So these two are probably the evil gods of this particular place. They are currently not involved in a war, it appears. They were only involved in 2 wars, or actually it's the same war, the Squeezing Conflict. And who was the enemy of that? It actually looks like it was some kind of civil war. It was waged by the Humid group of the Coincidental Union of Scars versus the Coalition of Poets of the Coincidental Union of Scars. So that's very interesting. They had a bit of a civil war back in year 9, though nothing recently. A few of their sites looks like have been destroyed, one by a Hydra and one by a Bronze Colossus. Let's see. And recently, it looks like they are in some kind of squabble because their most recent town, the Homely group's town of Glidefed, was taken over in 150 by the Tactical Embrace, which is a goblin civilization. The population of the Coincidental Union of Scars currently stands at 9,002 humans. I don't think... That might be 9,002 notable humans, because I'm sure there's a lot more than that. It's not going to tell us more, though. So this is the human civilization to which our adventurer will belong, and to which our human adventurer will make the journey to Anvilquested, which is right here. Anvilquested is a fortress with a population of 200 dwarves, 66 dog outcasts, 16 turkey outcasts, and a number of other things. 12 dwarf outcasts. I wonder who they are. I'm pretty sure that when I retired the fortress, I made sure that the merchants were gone. The reason I did this is because I did some test runs, and I found that if you retire the fortress while the merchants are there, their wagons are strewn about all over the place. Like one was down in the caverns, they were just stuck on the stairwell. It was kind of a mess, so I wanted to make sure that they had left. So in between this human civilization and Anvilquested, there are a number of sites. Perhaps we shall check out Fortnight, the Evenness of Mornings, which is filled with bats, large rats, and 3 elves. Then we have the Wildness of Puke, which is a labyrinth which contains a Minotaur. That might be an interesting place to check out. There is Purple Notches, which is a bandit camp, I would assume, with 2 bandits in it. Not too threatening. Here's another camp with 5 kobolds. We haven't actually seen a kobold in Anvilquested, so it would be interesting to see them. And we have a hamlet, which I assume is part of the civilization. I'm not sure why the... Okay, that's interesting. So we have... This goblin civilization has taken over Named Scars, which is a cave. It only has 1 goblin in there, and also a dwarf, but also some cave spiders and bats. Very interesting. Alright, well, so now we have kind of an idea of the world in which our adventurer is going to be adventuring into, and some of the nearby sites, which we can continue to look at later to see that we visit. But the main purpose of this Adventurer Mode series is going to be arriving at Anvilquested, which is our main goal. And speaking of Anvilquested, just in case I'm sure some of you might be interested, let's take a look at all of our dwarves in the world, filtered by notable kills, to see where our particular group of dwarves lands. So we can already see here that we have quite a few really powerful dwarves here. This is Nigzerzung Curse Healing, the Stoked Evisceration. Was a male dwarf born in 89 and died in 123, killed by a titan. And by the name, and by the fact that he is associated with the Wraith of Sabers, I can only believe that this dwarf was kidnapped at a young age by the goblins and raised alongside them. But you can kind of tell who the really exceptional people are because they have, as you can see, a title, which means they have at least 5 notable kills. Atir Page Thundered, the Cinder of Lucidities, was a female dwarf born in 139 and still alive, so she exists, although she is a member of the other dwarven civilization, the Figure of Princes. And she has exactly 5 notable kills, all elves. But looking for our people, the one on top of the list is Orthea Lensbrushed. And she has 3 notable kills, 2 Forgotten Beasts and a Goblin. So 2 away from actually getting a cool name, but she was involved in all of these different battles. The Ferocious Sieges, the Assault of Cuts, the Splattered Onslaught, the Onslaught of Roars, the Searing Attack, and the Crazed Sieges, both in the same year, against the Wraith of Sabers. Next after Orthea is Good Bad Dwarf. Good Bad Dwarf has also, I assume, 3 notable kills. The Dragon, Solore Heatflares, the Forgotten Beast, Ayanu Spray Soaks, and the Forgotten Beast, Aspad Cave Zealots. After that, we have Bronzebeard, who has 2 notable kills, the Forgotten Beast, Slavina, and the Goblin, Cutsmob Steam Hatred. Hank Luke follows shortly thereafter, with 2 notable kills, both demons, the Demon Lousteth and the Unnamed Demon. Narian Wolf follows up after that. And I'm just looking at his related entities before he joined the Mountain of Distraction, which is our Anvilquested civilization. And he took out 2 Forgotten Beasts. So those are kind of our top dwarves. Following them, we have the Mr. Me, Gotrek Gurnison, Elena Blades. And wow, there's a lot. Mr. Frodo. There's a lot of dwarves from the other civilizations, or from our civilization, that have a lot of kills. But I want to go back to Good Bad Dwarf. Because Good Bad Dwarf represents the effect that Anvilquested is having upon the world. And what do I mean by that? Well, he took out Solore Heatflares, the Sparks of Flickering, a dragon. But if you look at something here, if you look at the historical figures, and you swap out dwarf for dragon, you will find that the world itself only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total dragons, of which only 3 are still alive. So there are only 3 dragons currently living in this world. And of the 7 that no longer exist, one of them, Solore Heatflares, was killed by our friends at Anvilquested, with the killing blow going to Good Bad Dwarf. And so let's take a look at Solore's family. Her mother was Keshon Diamond-branded the Jade Pearls. She was killed in 95 by the dwarf Urvad Staff-Gleamed in a duel. And this dwarf belonged to the Ageless Manor, just like us. So our dwarven civilization is so far responsible for 2 dragon deaths. Then we have Obraz Parched Fire, the Sweltering Welths, who is the father of Solore. And he was struck also by a dwarf, Lolar Beakpillar. And Lolar was actually a member of the Figure of Princes, the other dwarven civilization. So Solore's entire family was murdered by dwarves. So this dragon, Fiery Treasures the Glowing Wealth, is still alive. So is this dragon, Urtal Pearlgild the Sizzling Warmth. We have Pearl Gold's the Spark of Glows, and they are all the 3 living dragons. But look at this. Who are her parents? Keshan Diamond-Branded and Obraz Patchfire, which means that this dwarf is, or this dragon, I should say, is the sister of Solare, whom Good Bad Dwarf killed, and has 41 deaths to her name. So we have a sister here, and a brother. So of the 3 currently existing dragons, 2 of them are siblings to the one we took down, and 3. So all 3 dragons are siblings. And you can see this here, the children of Keshan Diamond-Branded. We have Urtal, Stetad, Fawara, Pearl Golds, and Solore. Solore was the youngest, and we murdered her. So it's interesting to note the effect that Anvilquested has on the world, where it appears that most of these dragons are related, and we've taken out one of them. So that's quite interesting. Also, Anvilquested was visited by a Minotaur, if you'll recall. Not only one Minotaur, but 2. A fully grown adult Minotaur and a child Minotaur. So here's all the Minotaurs of the world, and there were quite a few of them, but here's the one that we killed. The Tunnel of Pulp, and this was the child Minotaur, the first one that attacked us. And this Minotaur was killed by Gordosh, our militia commander, who unfortunately died shortly thereafter. And this Minotaur had a mother, Shis Moltenmux, the Scorching Lust, which is quite the name, and a father, Vio Gleamcuts, the Splattered Wisp. Now, if you look at this, you will notice that they also have large families. So, the Tunnel of Pulp was actually the sibling to many other Minotaurs, including Lekla Strikesand, the Fierce Slaughters, who was killed by the Mr. Me at Anvilquested. So, the Tunnel of Pulp, this child Minotaur, attacked Anvilquested, we killed him, and then, in order to get revenge, his sister, Lekla, came after us, and we killed her too. So it's kind of amazing how this is all related. And of course, there's a number of still living Minotaurs that I'm sure are all related that could theoretically pose a problem to Anvilquested in the future. But it wasn't just Minotaurs that attacked Anvilquested. No, indeed, there were also some demons. So here are all the demons in the world. And you'll notice that, well, the named notable demons anyway. And you'll notice that some of them have really cool names. And the reason for this is these demons are actually on the surface, and they are ruling the different goblin civilizations. Now remember, this is why Anvilquested existed in the first place, was to try to find a way to stop these demons who were controlling the goblin civilizations, and by doing so, they were supposed to go down into the demons' homeworld. Or not necessarily home world, but homelands, I should say. But this particular demon, Esneth Sad Pitches, the Tears of Hatred, is an administrator of this particular goblin civilization, the Ghoul of Inches. Then we have Inrus, who rules the Bridled Evils. Now remember, this is the civilization that was at war with Anvilquested's civilization and caused a lot of problems down in the south and almost took over. And they are led by a female demon. So you can understand why the dwarves of Anvilquested were so desperate to break down into the underworld and put a stop to this demon nonsense. But we have Lousdeath, who was killed by Hank Luke. That is one demon who attacked us when we opened up the hole into the netherworld. There was Dustmuck, who died in 160 Unknown. This is the demon, unfortunately, who killed Ara, and he later was destroyed by our spikes. Then there's Tombgraves, who killed Triton and Daggirl, and unfortunately survived the experience. M. Plague Spiders, whose associated sphere is Torture, so sounds like a really cool guy, but he has no relation whatsoever to Anvilquested. But Necroburial does. Necroburial killed Fangowolf, Micus, Theodore, and Delta. I just want to see here, since these dwarves... Yeah, it doesn't give their kill ratio, unfortunately. But I'm sure that Liquidor would enjoy seeing this because it does list all their historical relations. Like, for example, Fengelwolf was the father of Young Guan Yu and the Mr. Me. And then I believe all of these particular demons up here are leaders of the Goblin civilization. But if you've been with Anvilquested since the beginning, you will know that the first plague set upon us was not a demon or a Minotaur or a dragon, but rather a giant wolverine. There were two giant wolverines who caused a lot of problems in Anvilquested. There was Dismalverse, who took out Azrael. We did not kill Dismalverse, but it appears that he died in 157 of old age, 6 years after rampaging in Anvilquested. And then there was Anguished Bolt, who took out Raven. Anguished Bolt was killed, however, in 159 by Gotrek Gurnison. That's funny, I don't remember. This must have happened right before we started going down into the depths, because this was 9 years into Anvilquested. So there are no currently notable giant wolverines alive, but there were two that factored very strongly into the lives of the dwarves of Anvilquested, of which one Gotrek Gurnison took out. And Gotrek's goal is to fall in love. That's very sweet. And apparently she did, because she is married to Ronan Copperblade. This is actually, this whole entire family is made up of named dwarves, which is kind of cool. And it has almost been 30 minutes. You can tell how you can kind of get lost in Legends mode, because it's so interesting and tells you so much about the civilizations and the world. But I just wanted to give you this little tour through the notable figures that impacted the situation and the civilization of Anvilquested. In fact, didn't we also get an Etten? I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. Elf. Elf. Dwarf. Elf. Elf. Goblin. I guess not. I guess... Or maybe it just wasn't a notable Etten? I'm not sure, but nothing here was taken out by Anvilquested. What about a giant? Did we get a giant? I forget. Perhaps? Elf, elf, human, elf. Now I'm saying who killed them, by the way, in case you're wondering, what's he doing? There's so many ways this could be better. Like, for example, if it colored in the people that were actually killed by your civilization. Well, I guess how would it know? How would it know who were the dwarves? Nope, we didn't get a giant. I thought that we did. We didn't get a giant anaconda. I know we were attacked by more things than just this. Interesting, there's some notable pigs. That'll do, pig. Tiger giant? That sounds pretty interesting. A thrips man. A water buffalo. Hey, Frigiberto would love that. Forgotten beast, but there are thousands of them. A dingo man. A blood man. Interesting. Wonder what that is. Well, okay. So that was the creatures that assaulted Anvilquested. So next episode, ladies and gentlemen, which I hope to have out by next weekend, but we'll see. It all depends on Dwarf Comic. Next episode, we will start our journey and our adventure from the human civilization of the coincidental Union of Scars to the Dwarven Fortress of Anvilquested. So I hope you stick around, and I hope you watch, and I hope you enjoy. So once again, I am Marcus Aurelius. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.